Hi there. I'm glad you decided to join me for self-esteem. How do I love me? Before we begin, put the video on pause and get yourself a hand mirror. Go ahead and find that now. I will assume you've found your mirror by now, and I'll tell you what we're going to do with it later. Self-esteem is part of the Love and Life Skills for Healing the Relationships with Yourself and Others series, compiled and presented by Helen Bair. Each video stands alone, but I hope you decide to watch them all because that's where you're going to get the best benefit. Before we get started, I want to make it very clear what I mean by the word self-esteem. I looked up some words that were synonymous with it, and some of them were conceit, narcissism, and vanity, which has nothing to do with the meaning of self-esteem here. What I mean by self-esteem is confidence, self-respect, believing in yourself, self-worth, dignity, and those kinds of things. It means that when people and situations are cruel and unfair, you have a soft place to land inside, an internal padding, so to speak. It means that you can still know of your value even if the world and some of the people in it don't treat you that way. So here we go. Self-esteem is the reputation you have with yourself, aside from what others think, or anything you do or possess. Of course, choices to hurt or take advantage of other people can certainly lower self-respect, but this is referring to the way you innately think and feel about yourself. Self-esteem is how you love you. I had a powerful insight years ago. I realized that because I had no love for myself, I had a hard time truly loving others. Well, how can you give someone something if you don't have it first? Well, I learned that it was worth taking my time to learn how to love myself so that I could truly give it. Check out this great quote. There is overwhelming evidence that the higher the level of self-esteem, the more likely one will be to treat others with respect, kindness, and generosity. You have to have it in order to give it. Having a good self-esteem is not about being better or worse than others. It's about embracing your own value, which then opens the door to seeing the value in others. What creates a low self-esteem is being treated as if you're not valuable, then believing that lie. People who are caught in this trap have little or no love for themselves. Unfortunately, they may go to extreme measures to try and find their missing value. Like sometimes they will end their life because of the way they feel inside. They may feel so worthless that it keeps them from reaching their goals. They may become prey for users or charismatic people. They may try to be perfect, which can be overwhelming because it's just too hard. They may be so needy that they take desperate measures and attempts to get the love and attention they need. A low self-esteem can cause the extremes, giving to the point of hurting yourself in order to gain approval from others, which is like running the car into the ground, toting everyone else around, but never taking time to service it. Under that kind of stress, they may deplete all their resources, find themselves used up and exhausted, and still with a low self-esteem. Or there's the other extreme, which is being too selfish, using or putting others down in an attempt to elevate themselves, being cocky, arrogant, conceited, self-centered, and all those kinds of things. Though extreme selfishness and selflessness seem opposite, if you were to peel back the layers, you'd probably find a low self-esteem is at the root of both of them. Here are some typical characteristics of a person with a low self-esteem. Thinking they're undeserving or bad. They tend to be chronic negative thinkers and entertain a lot of negative self-talk. They tend to take criticism personally. An intact self-esteem can weather the slings and arrows of other people's criticism much easier, but a low self-esteem cannot. They may tend to blame others because it's too hard to look at their own personal flaws and defects, Or some people are just the opposite and tend to take all the blame even when it's not their fault. Some take unreasonable risks, like gambling too much, engaging in dangerous activities, or trusting unsafe people when there's no love inside. And often, people who don't love themselves can't tolerate differences. They may tend to be immobilized, can't make decisions or move forward for fear of making a mistake or being wrong. They may try to save face by rejecting help or advice. They may also be rigid and inflexible, which is a defense mechanism to keep them from having to be aware of their inadequacies. A low self-esteem just doesn't allow a person to accept compliments or to feel good about themselves. In other words, their love bucket has holes in it, and so it's always empty. Healthy balance is self-love and self-care, which gives you what you need to be charitable with others and truly love others. If you don't believe in miracles, perhaps you have forgotten you are one. You have the power to think, love, laugh, imagine, create, plan, speak, pray, and choose. You are more than a human being. You are a human becoming. You are capable of great wonders. You have intrinsic value just because you breathe, just because you exist, and just because you are. So treat yourself that way. It is of practical value to learn to like yourself. Since you must spend so much time with yourself, you might as well get some satisfaction out of the relationship. Life isn't a lone journey. Other people come and go, but only you and God will be there from the beginning to the end. We'll talk about God in another chapter, but as far as your relationship with yourself, why not make it a good one? If you've decided that that's what you want, then let's examine what a good self-esteem looks like so you'll know where you're headed. With a good self-esteem, you're able to bounce back after failure, rejection, and loss. There may be some grieving time and some regrouping to do, but there is a comeback. It's feeling good and lovable and valuable inside and out, believing you're worth defending and protecting. A good self-esteem can enjoy the process as well as the win. Some people can't be happy unless they win all the time. Others can just have a good time no matter what. If you're enjoying what you do, then you're always a winner. You can accept compliments, but not have to depend on them. A good self-esteem allows you to follow your heart and live your dreams. Be comfortable admitting that you're wrong and be willing to apologize. Modify your beliefs and or your position if needed. Being able to take practical risks, even if they don't pan out, because you have the confidence to pick yourself up and try again. Sincerely celebrating and being truly happy when good things happen to others as well as yourself. Taking others' opinions, suggestions, and ideas into consideration and making adjustments if their ideas work better than yours. Acting independently, which includes being able to disagree or express controversial opinions even if it makes you unpopular. Admitting that you don't know everything and having the confidence to ask questions for clarification. So those are just some of the indicators of a person with a good self-esteem. So the question is, how do you get one? You create one. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. If you were raised in a nurturing, supportive environment, you may be one of the lucky ones who already has a good self-esteem. But if you're not, then you have some work to do. How do you begin to create a good self-esteem? Well, first of all, you stop being a sponge for criticism. And that is criticism from yourself and from others. However, if there is any truth to the criticism, just be willing to listen to it, hear it out, and make positive changes. If there is no truth to it, live to prove your critics wrong. Back yourself up with positive thinking and self-talk. Create your own internal advocate that stands up for you. Treat yourself as a nurturing parent would treat a child. Stop comparing yourself to others. Just enjoy all that's good about you and them. You have intrinsic value just because you're one of God's kids. Keep away from toxic people as much as possible. Surround yourself with supportive, trustworthy people. If your family is toxic, create a family of choice who love and support you. Give yourself credit for progress, improvement, and good things you do every day, no matter how small. Like this guy. I washed my car and I'm right proud of myself. And he should be. Change yourself instead of trying to fix, regulate, or change others. Get to know God so you can understand how precious you are to Him. Then you know how valuable you are. Take care of your health, nutrition, exercise, recreation, medical care, relaxation, and all those kinds of things. That's all a part of self-care. And quit taking everything so seriously. Lighten up, laugh more. Give all that serious stuff only to the most critical issues, not everything. Choose progress over perfection. Lighten up. Be nice to yourself. Simplify. You may find that less is more. Memorize this and say it to yourself as many times a day as you need to. What other people think of me is none of my business. Just say that over and over until it's drilled into your head. Think of it this way. If a person tells you you're stupid, does that mean you're stupid? Or does it mean that that person is cruel or clueless? You can choose to soak it in if you want to, or you can choose to leave those remarks with that person. The truth is, you are what you believe you are. So make that good. If other people send you kind words, take them to heart. Enjoy them. But consider them a bonus only. Don't depend on them. Because just as sure as one person likes you, the next guy won't. If you get your self-esteem from within, you can both accept compliments and weather the storms of other people's disapproval. You can go either way. Because you're human, you may occasionally fall back into the trap of self-criticism. If that's the case, simply say to yourself, stop it. Imagine hitting a delete button, apologize to yourself, sorry, and then rethink and focus on positive thoughts about yourself again. Become a best friend to yourself. Why not? What do you see in this picture? Look closely. Is it a woman holding a basket of bread, or is it a skull? If you can't see the skull, try squinting your eyes a little bit and you can see it more clearly that way. Now notice that you can choose to see the skull or you can choose to see the lady holding the basket. Try it both ways, back and forth. Here's the lesson. The way you choose to see this picture is up to you. In the same way, you can look at yourself and see only the flaws, or you can look at yourself and see the brilliance. How you choose to think about yourself is how you create or recreate yourself. It all starts with what you choose to think. Now, pick up your mirror that I told you to get earlier, and in a moment I'm going to have you hit pause again, and when you do, I want you to look very carefully at yourself in that mirror for several minutes, and I want you to notice your reaction. Go ahead and do that now. I assume you paused the video and took a couple of minutes to look at yourself. Some people have a problem with the simple act of looking at themselves in the mirror. Was that you? Or were you able to look at yourself? And if you were able to look at yourself, how did you feel while you were looking at that person staring back at you? Were the feelings kind and loving? Or were you finding yourself critical? What were the thoughts and the emotions going through your mind about yourself? Were you focusing on your flaws, or did you experience pleasant feelings? Did you see yourself as the gentle woman holding the basket of bread, or did you see yourself as the skull? These things are all giving you spontaneous feedback of what you believe about yourself, positive or negative. If your reaction was good, then congratulations. You've either already done a lot of healing on yourself or you came from a gentle, nurturing environment that helped you realize your true value. If your feedback was negative at all, it means you have some work to do. I want you to pause your video again, and I want you to look at yourself in the mirror again, if you can. And this time, I want you to try saying some kind, loving, nurturing words to yourself. Say what you always wanted someone else to say to you, and really try to mean it. Go ahead and do that now. How was that? How did it feel? Good or bad? Take note of your reaction. Some easily accept the kind words. Some say them but feel like they're lying to themselves. Others can't even say a kind word about themselves. This is all just feedback telling you what kind of work you have to do, or not. From your reaction, are you where you want to be? Can you turn things around by just being kinder and gentler to yourself? Or is it bad enough that you need some help? I'm going to share with you the best tool I've ever found to help turn around a low self-esteem. It's called SRT, or Subconscious Repairing Therapy. It's geared to access the memories, beliefs, and emotions that created your low self-esteem in the first place and repair them. You can't change the fact that life experiences happened the way they did, but with SRT, you can dispel painful emotions, update toxic beliefs, and place new perceptions on the difficult life events, so it's as if they never happened, even if you remember they did. For example, a young woman can't change the fact that her dad was a violent alcoholic and abused her all of her childhood. But with SRT, she can change the perception of those events so she can still perceive herself as a valuable, good person in spite of the alcoholic home she grew up in. For more information about SRT and how it can help you to repair a low self-esteem faster and better than anything I've ever seen before, log on to findingthehealer.com and watch the SRT introductory videos. Another advantage of having an intact self-esteem is that you're more able to withstand external rejection and criticism, such as the following experience that actually happened to me many years ago. This is a picture of me back in 1995 when I was a primary counselor for an alcohol and drug treatment center. I had a client that didn't like me and made it very well known he didn't like me. Being a new therapist and struggling with a low self-esteem myself, I was really hurt and confused by his words and actions. One day he came in for an appointment and said, "Helen, I've got to apologize to you. It finally came to me why I've always hated you so much." And then he pulled out a picture of his mother. Well, guess what? She looked so much like me, we could have been twins. Her hair, face, build, weight, age were so similar to mine, I couldn't believe it. He had been projecting his unresolved issues towards his mother onto me because I looked so much like her. But because I had unhealed wounds, I took his treatment personally when it really had nothing to do with me. This taught me a great deal about relationships. What comes out of another person's mouth is more about them than it is about you. But because I had those old wounds inside and a low opinion of myself, his words were like pouring salt into an open wound. But mind you, once that wound is healed and the skin is healed over, the salt no longer causes a sting. In the same way, when other people's insults hit a healthy, intact self-esteem, it doesn't affect you in a negative way because the wounds are healed. It requires a powerful subconscious tool like SRT to get to the root cause of your emotional wounds in order to truly heal them and clear them up. It may be something you have to try to believe what is capable of doing. A good self-esteem just means there's going to be more uptime and less downtime. It just makes life feel better. To conclude this chapter, here are some wise words from Louise Hay. Remember, you have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. Some think it's too hard or too late to change, but consider the alternative. A low self-esteem taints every aspect of your life. Isn't it about time to give yourself the blessing of change? Wherever you are at this moment, start right there. Give yourself credit for every little step, every little improvement that you make, and be gentle and patient with yourself. So, bye for now.